We're going to have a look at knife painting now, and I've mixed up some colours with a retarder. You'll need a brushing retarder for this. I've pre-painted a board in a mid blue, cerulean blue and white. I'm going to do an alpine scene, a mountain scene with a knife. I'm using a large knife just to block in my shape. I haven't done any drawing first. The painting will make itself as it goes along. And we're going to put the mid-tone of my first little mountain in here. It's going to dry a bit darker than this, so I'm using the knife, the angle of the knife, to vary the texture of the paint as we come down the image, so that it looks as if the terrain slopes. So my knife on this side will slope down that way. Nice big thick ridges of paint. You do have to use a retarder for this. Don't try and paint like this in acrylics without putting in retarder. It'll dry too quickly. Follow the manufacturer's instructions on the tube. There are two kinds of retarder. There's a retarder that comes in a bottle, which is a liquid one, which thins the paint. And there is the one that I've used for this, which comes in a tube and is fairly thick, so the paint remains workable with a knife. So we'll have another little mountain coming in slightly smaller than this one, and the sky will remain more or less the colour that I've put in already. We might knife in some additional colour on that later on. Just working the paint in. The trick is to mix up plenty of paint in advance. Here is as you can see, my palette, I've got mounds of paint. I'm not using a special Stay Wet palette or one of the proprietary acrylic palettes. This is a disposable paper palette. And I'm using a pre-mixed mounds of paint. So I've chosen my colours and I'm putting the paint on in advance of adding the snow and the lights and darks. This is mid-tones, really. But I've mixed up some of my colours in advance. If you are doing this, as I've just said, make sure you've put plenty of retarder in. Always read the instructions, because they all work slightly differently. Okay, we'll make this one a little higher. Give it a peak. And I'm now going to put in some of the dark tones. So I'm going to swap from one palette to another. The next palette, fairly dark grey. So we'll put in some darks here, and this is where the look of the mountain and the ridges, the rocks and things can be exaggerated. You can see the thick textural quality of the knife strokes. Knives come in a variety of shapes, and the way I would describe the knives I use is a leaf shape, a large leaf shape. And they're useful because they've got rounded ends on them. I've got about 5 different sizes. This is the largest one. And so we've got the look here of the darker areas of the mountain coming down. We're going to work over this in a minute and put some snow on, and then we'll put some trees, some pine trees further down, and see how that goes. The distant mountain, well, it's got to be less textured than a nearer one, and beginning to look that way because it's lighter now. So this is a mid-grey, and it's made from ultramarine and burnt sienna. A bit of burnt umber in there as well, and the lighter colour now I'm going to be putting on next is that grey with an awful lot of titanium white. The sky blue, there's a cerulean and white mix, and I brushed that on before I started, so I've cheated in a way by using a brush. Knife painting doesn't have to be about just using knives. Use whatever you want to, and so I use a mix of knives and brushes quite often. So a nice pale colour now. We're going to put on the bulk of the snow on the top. This will define the peaks against the sky, which will be darker than this. This is a pale colour. And I'm just dragging it down over the ridges I've just applied, look. Just using the knife very lightly, hardly any pressure. Just putting it on and moving it down, and it picks up on the highlights. It picks up on the ridges that I've just applied. We'll do the same on this one, and suddenly we've got snowy peaks with little gaps where the rocks are, and quite believable, quite nice. Just make that one a bit more irregular. Now we want to imply a direction of light, so this is titanium white with a little tiny touch of Naples yellow in it to give it a sunny look, and we'll have the sun coming from the left, so this is going to be illuminated. This will go on now. We'll just slice it on, showing there we are. It's not mixing with the colour underneath because I'm not using much pressure. Hold the knife very lightly, just putting it on, and it's picking up the ridges of the paint underneath. So we've now got a snow, a nice peak, which I can put in pure solid colour. And this side will still be fairly dark. So we've now got a direct source of light. We've got a look that the sun is on the left hand side of this mountain. And we'll just increase the snow line down a little bit to there. That's okay, that's looking nice. Do the same on this one. This will give us the look. I'm adding a tiny touch of grey to this to make this less strong. I want this mountain to look behind that one, and this is the peak. So we'll knife that on and bring it down so that it will show that this mountain is behind this ridge. As it goes down, it's breaking up. Again, there'll be some colour on the top. There'll be some solid off-white up here. And this really shouldn't be quite as intense as that one. I've greyed it slightly, so it should look a bit further away. There you go. So I'm going to take a few minutes now to mix up my next range of colours. This probably won't dry, although it will start to stiffen up. But if I spend 10 minutes or so working on the next ranges of colours for my trees, when I come back this will probably still be wet and workable, I hope.